Self-discipline is not what most people think it is. Most people think it is willpower, the brute force application of determination against the resistance of desire, the white-knuckled refusal to do what the body wants, the dramatic act of choosing pain over comfort again and again through sheer force of character. That model of self-discipline fails, not occasionally, consistently, because willpower is a resource and resources deplete. The person who depends on willpower to maintain their discipline will succeed while the willpower is present and fail when it is not. And willpower is almost never present when it is most needed, in the moments of genuine stress, genuine fatigue, genuine temptation, precisely the moments when discipline matters most. The Stoics built something different. They did not build willpower. They built a system, a set of daily practices, internal orientations, and clear distinctions that produced disciplined behavior not through force, but through structure. Not through motivational intensity, but through the quiet, consistent architecture of a life organized around what actually matters. Marcus Aurelius governed an empire under conditions that would have broken most people. Plagues that killed millions, wars that dragged on for decades, political enemies who worked against him from within his own government, personal losses, children who died, health that deteriorated, the grinding weight of responsibility that never lifted. And in his private journal, notes never intended for anyone else, written in the early hours before the day's demands began, what you find is not the record of a man struggling to maintain discipline through force of will. What you find is the record of a man who had built a system, a set of daily practices that produce the clarity, the steadiness, and the capacity for continued effort that his circumstances required. That system is what this is about, not a collection of motivational principles to feel inspired by, a practical architecture for building discipline that actually holds in the difficult moments, in the tired moments, in the moments when every comfortable alternative is available and the disciplined choice is the harder one. Stay with this. All of it is practical. All of it can be started today. Part 1. The distinction that changes everything before any practice. There is a distinction that the Stoics considered foundational, the one that separates genuine discipline from its imitations. The distinction is this: discipline is not the suppression of desire. It is the alignment of desire with what you actually value. Most approaches to self-discipline treat it as a battle between what you want and what you should do, with discipline being the mechanism by which the should overcomes the want. This model creates an ongoing internal war that depletes the person fighting it. Every act of discipline is experienced as a denial. Every lapse is experienced as a defeat. The entire project is organized around the premise that your natural desires are the enemy of your best choices. The Stoics rejected this premise, not because desire is always right. It is not, but because the war model of discipline is both exhausting and unnecessary. Epictetus identified the source of the problem precisely. The conflict between desire and behavior occurs when your desires have been shaped by what is external, by what others value, by what culture rewards, by what the immediate situation makes available, rather than by what you actually hold as important when you examine your life honestly. When your desires are aligned with your genuine values, discipline becomes largely unnecessary. You do what you want to do because what you want to do is the thing that reflects who you actually are. This sounds too simple, but consider how it works in practice. The person who genuinely values their health does not struggle to exercise. They may find particular workouts difficult. They may have days when motivation is low, but the internal conflict, the experience of forcing themselves to do something they fundamentally do not want to do, is largely absent because they actually want to maintain their health. The behavior is an expression of desire, not a victory over it. The person who genuinely values their work does not need to force themselves to do it. They may find certain tasks tedious. They may face difficulty and resistance, but the fundamental direction toward the work, toward the thing that matters, is where they actually want to go. The Stoic project of self-discipline begins here, not with techniques for suppressing desire, but with the honest examination of what you actually value. Because when that examination is done honestly, and when the behaviors that follow from those values are clearly identified, the gap between what you want and what you do narrows dramatically. The discipline that remains, and some always remains, is not the battle between desire and should. It is the daily renewal of commitment to what you have genuinely chosen. Part 2. The morning architecture. The Stoics understood what modern research has since confirmed. The early hours are the most important hours. Not because the morning is inherently special, but because it is the period before the day's friction has accumulated, before the demands of others have occupied your attention, before decision fatigue has eroded the quality of your choices. The morning is when your mental resources are at their fullest, and what you do with those resources sets the direction for everything that follows. Marcus Aurelius began each day with a specific practice that he recorded in his meditations. Before the day's obligations began, he would sit with his own mind and prepare, not plan, prepare. He would remind himself of what he valued. He would anticipate the difficulties the day was likely to present. He would renew his commitment to the person he intended to be in response to those difficulties. This practice took minutes. Its effects lasted all day. Here is the architecture he used, translated into practical terms. First, clarity of intention. Before anything else, before the phone, before the inbox, before any external input, you decide what this day is for, not a to-do list. A genuine answer to the question, what is the most important thing I can do today that reflects what I actually value? One thing, sometimes two. The answer to this question, held clearly at the beginning of the day, creates a reference point that every subsequent choice can be measured against. Second, the anticipation of difficulty. Marcus Aurelius wrote, "When you wake up in the morning, tell yourself that the people you deal with today will be meddling, ungrateful, arrogant, dishonest, jealous, and surly." He was not cultivating contempt. He was eliminating surprise. The person who expects difficulty is not derailed by difficulty. The person who expects ease and encounters difficulty loses time and energy to the shock of it. Spend 2 minutes before the day begins, identifying what is likely to be hard today. The conversation that will require patience. The task that will require sustained focus when distraction is easier. The moment where the comfortable choice and the right choice will diverge. Having identified these in advance, you can pre-commit to your response, and pre-commitment is far more reliable than in-the-moment willpower. Third, the physical activation. The Stoics valued the body as the instrument through which the mind acts in the world, and they treated its maintenance as a daily obligation rather than an optional supplement. Movement in the morning, of whatever kind, at whatever level is appropriate, activates the body, sharpens the mind, and creates a physiological state that is more capable of the deliberate action that discipline requires. These three elements, clarity of intention, anticipation of difficulty, physical activation, constitute a morning architecture that takes perhaps 20 minutes and produces a fundamentally different quality of day than the morning spent scrolling, reacting, and drifting into whatever the day presents. Part 3. The discipline of the present moment. One of the most consistent sources of failed discipline is the wrong relationship with time. Most people experience their goals as existing in the future, as destinations to be arrived at through the accumulation of present effort. And this framing, though not entirely wrong, creates a specific problem. It locates the reward of discipline in a future that is always distant, while the cost of discipline, the effort, the discomfort, the sacrifice of easier alternatives, is experienced entirely in the present. This asymmetry is the reason most discipline fails. The cost is immediate and concrete. The reward is remote and uncertain. And when these are the terms of the deal often falls apart. The Stoics proposed a different relationship with time that dissolves this problem. They did not locate the value of disciplined action in its future results. They located it in the action itself, in the quality of the present moment of doing. Marcus Aurelius wrote, "Confine yourself to the present," not as a technique for avoiding the future, but as a recognition that the present moment is the only place where action actually occurs. The future is not where your work happens. The work happens here, now, in this moment of attention and effort. When you approach a task with full presence, when you bring genuine attention to what is in front of you rather than dividing it between the task and the desire for the task to be finished, the experience of doing the work changes. It becomes less about endurance and more about engagement, less about waiting for it to be over and more about actually doing it. This is what the Stoics called the discipline of attention, the practice of being fully where you are, doing what you are doing with the whole of your available capacity. It sounds philosophical. It is entirely practical. The person who is fully present while working does better work, finds it less depleting, and has more capacity remaining after it is done than the person who is half present and half resisting. Full presence is not just a quality of experience. It is a performance advantage. Practice it as a discipline. When you notice your attention dividing, part on the task, part on the wish to be doing something else, bring it back. Not through force, through redirection. Return to what is in front of you. Again and again, as many times as necessary. Each return is a repetition of the practice, and like all practices, it builds. Part 4. Voluntary hardship as training. The Stoics practiced something that sounds strange to modern ears. They deliberately made things harder than they needed to be. Seneca would periodically eat the plainest possible food for several days. He would sleep without the comforts his wealth could afford. He would dress simply when he could have dressed well, not as punishment, as training. The reasoning was precise. The things that make life comfortable, good food, warm shelter, ease and convenience, also create a dependency. The person who has never experienced their absence has an unconscious belief that they cannot function without them. And that belief, never tested, shapes their choices in ways that limit their freedom. When you deliberately remove a comfort, when you choose voluntarily to do without something you could easily have, you test the belief. And almost always, you discover that the thing you feared losing your capacity without was not actually necessary. You are more functional without it than you thought, more capable, more focused, sometimes more clear. This discovery does something important. It recalibrates your relationship with comfort, not by making you indifferent to it, but by making you genuinely unafraid of its absence. And a person who is unafraid of comfort's absence is genuinely free in a way that a person dependent on comfort never is. They make choices based on what they value rather than on what they cannot bear to lose. In practical terms, voluntary hardship looks like this: the meal that could be elaborate, eaten simply; the task that could be delegated, done yourself to maintain the skill; the comfort that could be taken, declined for a day to practice the declining; the difficulty that could be avoided, engaged with directly to build the tolerance for engagement. None of these are dramatic. None of them require significant sacrifice. What they build, accumulated over time, is a settled knowledge that you are capable of more difficulty than your ordinary life requires. And that knowledge, when the extraordinary difficulty arrives, is the difference between being ready and being overwhelmed. Part 5. The evening accounting. The Stoics closed each day with the same precision they brought to beginning it. Seneca described his practice in his letters. Each evening, before sleep, he would review the day, not to produce guilt, to produce clarity. He asked 3 questions. Where did I fall short of my values today? Where did I act in accordance with them? What will I do differently tomorrow? This practice, simple, honest, private, serves a function that no morning practice can serve. It closes the loop. It prevents the errors and the drift of today from becoming invisible patterns that compound silently into the habits of next month and next year. Most people do not review their days. They experience them, and then they sleep, and then they experience the next one. The cumulative effect of their choices, the direction they are traveling as a result of what they do day after day, is never clearly seen because it is never clearly examined. The evening accounting makes it visible. It gives you the opportunity to catch drift early, before it has become a new default, to identify patterns before they have become entrenched, to make tomorrow's intention more specific because you have seen honestly where today's intention fell short. This does not require long. Seneca did not describe elaborate journaling sessions. He described honest questions, answered privately before sleep. 5 minutes. The discipline is not in the length, it is in the honesty. Ask what went wrong, not to punish and to understand. Ask what went right, not to congratulate, to identify what to repeat. Ask what changes tomorrow, not as a wish, as a specific commitment. And then release the day, whatever it was, however it compared to what you intended. It is finished. The only territory where your choices still operate is the one that begins when you open your eyes tomorrow. Part 6. The character that discipline builds. Here is what the Stoics were actually after with all of this. Not the outcomes that discipline produces, the wealth, the health, the achievement, the person that discipline builds. Because the outcomes of discipline are real but uncertain. You can do everything right and still face circumstances that prevent the results you were working toward. You can maintain your practices through difficulty and still not arrive at the destination you intended. This is the reality the Stoics accepted completely, that results are never fully yours to guarantee. What is fully yours is the character of the person who shows up regardless of whether the results are confirming the effort. Marcus Aurelius wrote, "Waste no more time arguing about what a good man should be. Be one." The instruction is entirely about character rather than achievement. Not work toward being good when you have figured out what that means. Simply be it. Now, in this action, in this choice, in this moment where the disciplined response and the comfortable response diverge. The person who builds this character, through the daily practice of the morning preparation, the present attention, the voluntary hardship, the evening accounting, does not become immune to difficulty. They become capable of it, not through exceptional talent or unusual strength, but through the accumulated evidence of their own choices, which over time produces a settled knowledge that they are the kind of person who does the thing that needs to be done. That knowledge, earned, not assumed, is the foundation of genuine self-discipline, not the white-knuckled force of willpower over desire. The quiet confidence of someone who has been showing up consistently and knows it. It is built the same way everything the Stoics valued was built, one morning at a time, one choice at a time, one day of honest accounting at a time, until the discipline is not something you practice, it is something you are. Closing, 30 minutes, 6 principles. One underlying truth. Self-discipline is not about being harder on yourself. It is about being more honest with yourself, about what you value, about how you are spending your days. about the gap between who you intend to be and who you are actually being in the ordinary moments that no one is watching. The Stoics built their discipline in those ordinary moments, in the pre-dawn hour before the empire's demands began, in the private accounting before sleep, in the voluntary hardship that no one required, but that they chose because they understood what it was building. They were not extraordinary people in their raw material. They were people who built extraordinary characters through the consistent application of these practices across years and decades. You have the same access to the same practices. Starting tonight, with 5 minutes of honest accounting. Starting tomorrow morning, with the clarity of a single genuine intention before the day begins. Not because it will immediately produce visible results, because it builds the person who, in the months and years ahead, produces results that the undisciplined person cannot. Begin, not when you feel ready, now. That is the first act of discipline, and it is available to you in this exact moment. Stay stoic, stay disciplined, stay building. Part 7. The discipline of what you do not do. There is a dimension of self-discipline that most people never examine because it is invisible by definition. It is the discipline of restraint, of what you choose not to say, not to do, not to pursue. The Stoics considered this the more demanding half of discipline because the discipline of action has a visible product. You can see the workout completed, the work done, the difficult choice made. The discipline of restraint has no visible product. Its evidence is the absence of something. Epictetus framed this as the discipline of desire, specifically the practice of not desiring what is outside your control. Not because these things are not desirable, but because desiring them creates a dependency that undermines your freedom. The person who desires external approval needs external approval to function at their best. The person who desires specific outcomes needs those outcomes to maintain their equanimity. The person who desires the comfort of ease needs ease to sustain their effort. Each of these dependencies is a lever, and whoever controls the supply of the desired thing controls, to that degree, the person who desires it. The discipline of restraint, the practice of gradually loosening the grip of dependencies that are not actually necessary, expands freedom in the most literal sense, not by adding options, but by reducing the conditions that must be met before genuine engagement is possible. In practice, this looks like noticing what you reach for when discomfort arrives, the phone that appears in your hand when concentration is difficult, the food that is sought when stress rises, the social validation that is sought when uncertainty increases. These are not moral failures, they are habits. But habits can be examined, and examined habits can be changed, not all at once. One at a time, chosen deliberately, replaced with the tolerance of the discomfort rather than its management through the habitual response. This is some of the most important discipline available, because it is the discipline that expands the range of circumstances in which you can function fully, and a person who can function fully across a wider range of circumstances is, in the most practical sense, more free. Part 8. Discipline in relationships and speech. The Stoics extended their discipline into every domain of life, and none more carefully than the domain of speech and relationship. Marcus Aurelius wrote extensively about the quality of his interactions with others, not as social performance, but as a site of active practice. How he responded to provocation, how he maintained genuine interest in people whose views he did not share. How he refrained from speaking more than the situation required. The discipline of speech for the Stoics was not separate from the discipline of character. It was the most visible expression of it. Because speech happens in real time, in response to real provocation, with the full pressure of social context creating strong pulls toward the easy response rather than the considered one. Every conversation is, in Stoic terms, a practice opportunity. The moment when someone says something you disagree with and you choose to listen fully before responding, that is a disciplined practice. The moment when you feel the pull toward an unkind observation and choose silence instead, that is a disciplined practice. The moment when flattery is available and accuracy is harder and you choose accuracy, that is a disciplined practice. These moments are everywhere. They do not feel significant in any individual instance. Accumulated across a life, they are the substance of character. Seneca was direct about this. The proof of genuine progress is not the articulation of principles, but the quality of behavior in ordinary situations. Anyone can describe virtue. The question is whether the description matches what actually happens in the unscripted moment. The moment when no one is watching, when the easier choice is available, when the principle and the preference diverge. That is where discipline lives or dies. Not in dramatic tests of character, but in the thousand small, ordinary moments that added together are the life you are actually living. Train in those moments. They are the most important training available. On the Stoic understanding of motivation, here is a misconception about discipline that the Stoics would have identified immediately. The belief that motivation must precede action. Most people wait to feel motivated before they begin. They assume that action should follow feeling, that the desire to act is the necessary precondition for acting, and this assumption is the source of an enormous amount of inaction because motivation is unreliable. It comes and goes. It is present in some circumstances and absent in others, and the circumstances where it is most absent are often the circumstances where action is most necessary. The Stoics understood the causal relationship to be the reverse. Action precedes motivation. You do not wait to feel like doing the work and then do it. You do the work, and the feeling of engagement, of momentum, of genuine involvement with what you are doing, these arrive through the doing, not before it. Marcus Aurelius did not wait to feel like governing. He governed. Epictetus did not wait to feel like teaching. He taught. Seneca did not wait to feel like writing. He wrote. The motivation, the genuine desire to engage with the work, was produced by the engagement, not the other way around. This reordering changes everything about the relationship with difficult days. The day when you do not feel like doing the work is not a day to wait for the feeling. It is a day to begin anyway, and to trust that the feeling will arrive through the beginning. It almost always does. Not immediately, not dramatically. But the person who sits down to do the work on a day when they do not feel like it will, within minutes, find themselves actually working. The resistance was at the threshold, not in the work itself. And crossing the threshold despite the resistance is the whole practice. Begin. The motivation will follow.